All right, boys, let's talk about Ubisoft. So there's a crazy rumor going around. And I mean, I find it interesting that as the company starts to get closer and closer to either bankruptcy or being bought out, whichever happens first, I find it really interesting that there's so many rumors coming out. It's almost as if the people who work at Ubisoft don't give a fuck anymore, right? They don't care to keep anything in. They don't care to keep anything secret. At this point, they probably all feel that the jig is up. So now everybody's just leaking everything. Everybody's just throwing it all out there. Well, there's another rumor. Ubisoft intentionally pushed Yasuke in Assassin's Creed Shadows to tank the company's stock price so that Tencent could take over. Now, you're probably thinking to yourself, wow, that sounds really conspiratorial. And it is. It is. It sounds really conspiratorial. But when you sit down and you really think about it, there might be some truth here. There might be a little bit of truth here. Not a lot, but a little bit. Because I feel like in every rumor, there is a little bit of truth to it. But I don't think it's fully the way it's being presented here, right? Don't get it twisted. This is not the first time something like this has happened, because stocks get manipulated all the time, right? You got people shorting stocks. It happens all the time. So it's not that conspiratorial to think that a company who's heavily invested in Ubisoft wants to try to find a way to buy out the company cheaper so that way they can get access to whatever they're trying to get access to. Clearly, Tencent is interested in Ubisoft's product. They're one of the majority shareholders. They're clearly interested, right? It's not like it's not like they're not interested in the company. It's not like they, 1% shareholder. They're pretty fucking invested. All right. But let's read the rumor and let's make up our own minds from here. So it says a new rumor alleges that Ubisoft intentionally promoted Yasuke in Assassin's Creed Shadows so that the company's stock price would tank and allow Tencent to easily take over the company. Endymion shared that an alleged insider shared with him that Ubisoft was using the implementation of this character into their game to steer the public reception of not only Shadows, but Ubisoft as a company in general towards a scenario that would actually lead to a buyout. So the entire rumor is basically saying, well, let me just read it. As I was told, Tencent allegedly was a big pusher of Yasuke becoming the main character of Shadows. Ubisoft, of course, was considering the idea, but Tencent was really the ones that pushed that vision into reality. Allegedly, Yasuke was pushed because Tencent knew the inclusion of his character as a leading man in a Japanese Assassin's game would raise many eyebrows and cause public outcry. Which, I mean, they're right. It did exactly that. He continued, and the discussion surrounding the game has not died down since then for good reason. As I'm told, decisions like implementing Yasuke, which would lead to many boycotting the game, was something pushed by Tencent investors to purposely tank Ubisoft in order to weaken the company towards an acquisition, effectively leading to Ubisoft as known becoming far weaker, worth far less than it should be, and placing itself plump and ready for Tencent to waltz in and swallow the entire company whole and obtain them, he stated. Now, that's a lot to take in. Let me drink some water. Hold on. That's a lot to take in, right? I have a hard time believing all this. But it's not out of the realm of possibility. Because when you look at the stock price has been falling massively. Now, one thing I said in my video that's coming out tomorrow about this, if you want my full thoughts, go watch the video. But one thing I said in the video is that I find it hard that they would focus on an Assassin's Creed game, one of Ubisoft's most highly shilled games, right? Assassin's Creed sells very well for what it was. Valhalla was the #1 selling Assassin's Creed game, and that just came out. So why would you bank on Assassin's Creed being the game that's going to make Ubisoft die off to the point where you can buy them out? It's very strange, right? I feel like I would rather go for Outlaws, a game that's a brand new IP that has a massive budget, right? and is also implementing some woke shit into it. I feel like I would rely on that kind of a game to sink the company more than Assassin's Creed. I feel like Assassin's Creed is not a good game to bet against. Even with all the Yasuke stuff, I think there's a lot of shills out there that buy Assassin's Creed like they do Call of Duty every year. But the game everybody really should be talking about is Skull and Bones. That's the game everybody should be talking about. That's the game that killed Ubisoft. It's not Star Wars Outlaws, even though Star Wars Outlaws is not helping, because Star Wars Outlaws lost a lot of money. It's not going to be Assassin's Creed Shadows, even though Assassin's Creed Shadows is not going to sell as well as Valhalla. I don't think it's going to do bad. It's Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones is the game that is going to kill Ubisoft, in my opinion. Because that's the game that took 10 years of Ubisoft's life to develop and brought them absolutely nothing. It brought them nothing. And then people are like, well, that $850 million number, that sounds too high. Okay. What number makes sense to you? 10 years of development. What number makes sense to you? 600? 400? If Sony's Concord cost $400 million for 8 years, why is it so out of the realm of existence to think Skull and Bones cost $600 million in 10 years? Okay, but pick a number. Pick a fucking number, right? What do you want? 400 million? It doesn't matter what number you pick. The game sold so bad that it's losing hundreds of millions of dollars even at the $400 million mark. And it only gets worse the higher the number goes. Even at 300 million, the game's losing hundreds of millions of dollars. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what number you pick. The higher the number goes, the worse it gets. But they still lost a lot of numbers anyway. But again, that's what the shills say. The shills are like, well, you gotta think about this. It can't be that much. They won't spend that much on a video game. That's impossible. Blah, 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 whatever. They say this all the fucking time. I don't know how you guys are feeling about this, but then there's this part right here. As noted, this is what makes me believe this entire rumor, okay? This is what makes me believe this rumor even slightly. This part right here. And we've talked about this. There was a letter that was sent from an investment firm, AJ Investments, and that investment firm accused Ubisoft and Tencent of that exact thing, right? So it's not just some random informant speaking to Endymion, right? This investment company thinks they're doing the same exact fucking thing. So let's talk about it. AJ Investments has accused both Ubisoft and Tencent of purposefully tanking the company in order to lower the stock price to allow the Guillemot family and Tencent to purchase shares at a reduced price. The firm alleged in an open letter in September, we believe that the Guillemot family and Tencent are discounting potential value of Ubisoft in order to buy more shares at lower valuation and eventually take full control of the company at a heavily discounted valuation. We value the great work that has been done by the Guillemots over the decades in the Ubisoft, but now it's time to move on and restart the business with new shareholder approach and new management / CEO. So again, guys, as much as the conspiracy sounds too good to be true, the fact that an investment firm that invests in Ubisoft is thinking the same exact thing, that makes it a little bit more believable. That makes it seem like, okay, so it's not just some random person thinking this. There's a lot of investors that are thinking this too.